The Case of the Unheard Chime. The fog arrived early that evening, sliding through London's narrow streets like a secret it refused to share. Gas lamps glowed softly along Bellweather Lane, their light blunted by the mist, their halos trembling as if unsure of themselves. At precisely 10 minutes past 9, the great clock of Bellweather Square was meant to chime. It did not. For most of the city, this would have gone unnoticed. But for Elias Crow, the silence rang louder than any bell. Elias stood beneath the clock tower, coat collar turned up, pocket watch already in his hand. 10 minutes late was not an accident. The Bellweather clock had chimed on time for over 70 years, through wars, storms, and one rather memorable pigeon infestation. Tonight, it failed, and Elias knew why. Earlier that afternoon, he had received a letter, handwritten, unsigned, and delivered without stamp or postmark. When the clock forgets its voice, listen for what was taken. Elias slipped the letter back into his coat and looked up. The tower loomed above him, its stone face dark and watchful. A few shopkeepers lingered at the edges of the square, murmuring about the silence, uneasy without quite knowing why. Elias crossed the square toward Hargreave and Sons, the small horology shop tucked beneath the tower. Its windows were dark, too dark. The door, however, was unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of oil and old metal. Tools lay scattered across the workbench in a disorder that made Elias's stomach tighten. Mr. Hargreave was many things. Gruff, particular, overly fond of tea, but careless was not one of them. "Mr. Hargreave?" Elias called softly. No answer. He moved deeper into the shop, careful not to disturb anything. The clockmaker's ledger lay open, its neat columns abruptly broken off mid-entry. Beside it sat the tower key, a heavy iron thing that should never have left its hook. Elias frowned. The theft wasn't of money, nor was it of the clock itself. The mechanism above was intact. He'd confirmed that before entering. No, something smaller had been taken, something precise. Up the narrow stairs he went, emerging into the tower's inner chamber. Gears rested motionless, frozen like a held breath. Elias approached the escapement and felt it immediately. A piece was missing, not broken, removed. "The chime regulator," he murmured. Without it, the clock could keep time, but it would never speak. A footstep echoed behind him. Elias turned calmly. Mr. Hargreave stood in the doorway, face pale, hands shaking, not with fear, but with fury. "You shouldn't be here," the clockmaker snapped. "And you shouldn't have hidden it," Elias replied. Hargreave's eyes flicked, just for a moment, toward his coat pocket. That was enough. "You took the regulator," Elias said gently. "Not to sell, to protect." Hargreave slumped. "They were going to replace it, scrap it, said it was inefficient, 70 years of work, my father's work, thrown out for something louder, brighter, soulless. So you silenced the clock." "I meant to give it back," Hargreave said quickly, "just long enough to force a delay. Make them listen." Elias nodded. "But you didn't account for the letter." Hargreave stiffened. "You received one too?" "No," Elias said. "I sent it." The old man stared. "I needed to know whether the silence was greed or grief," Elias continued. "London has suffered both." Slowly, Hargreave reached into his coat and withdrew the small brass piece, wrapped carefully in cloth. His hands trembled as he offered it. Elias took it and turned back to the mechanism. Within minutes, the regulator was restored to its place. He stepped back. "Wind it," he said. Hargreave did. The clock ticked once, twice. Then, at exactly 27 minutes past 9, Bellweather Tower chimed. Not loudly, but clearly, its sound rolling through the fog like a promise kept. Outside, the square exhaled. Elias replaced his pocket watch and headed for the stairs. "Will you tell them?" Hargreave asked quietly. Elias paused. I'll tell them the clock needed maintenance. Nothing more. The old man nodded, eyes wet. As Elias stepped back into the mist, the bells faded into the night. London resumed its restless breathing, unaware of how close it had come to losing one of its quieter truths. But Elias Crow listened. He always did.